Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Keys to Real Estate. I'm your host, Mary Schuster. Well, we finally got our first rate cut last week, and some of you might find yourself very busy again soon. Now, last week, we looked at increasing our capacity and efficiency with the use of smart tools. And today, we're going to talk about adding additional capacity with quality people. So if you're dusting off your hiring practices, you're in for a real treat today as my guest, Deb Wiley, helps you rethink your posture and strategies with regard to hiring new staff and creating a quality employee experience within your company. Now, Deb is a senior professional in human resources, and she's the SVP in charge of people for North America with Pattison ID. And as Deb constantly has to clarify, she's in the people business. In our conversation today, she helps us update on how the older and more traditional ways of thinking in terms of HR methods might not be enough in today's competitive job market. She also brings tips and tricks for how and where to search for talent in today's environment. So we talk through about the unique challenges of hiring in the real estate sector, and she has great advice for how to approach your people needs and goals, just like you approach other areas in your business. It's a key paradigm shift and just might make the people side of your business a little less intimidating for those who struggle with it. Deb's advice and expertise go a long way in helping demystify the people business. And as we work here at the podcast to bring topics and guests that help you create an undeniably successful and profitable business, we know this is an important and often overlooked element. So break out your favorite note-taking app or pencil because there's more than a few aha moments coming your way. Please enjoy unique wisdom from my favorite people professional, whose passion for finding and retaining great talent really shines through in everything she does. Please enjoy my conversation with the strategic and engaging Ms. Deb Wiley. The presenting sponsor of the Keys to Real Estate podcast is RamQuest. RamQuest fosters a customer-first culture built around an unwavering commitment to provide solutions that don't just meet, but exceed expectations. RamQuest's newest title and settlement production solution, Horizon, delivers unparalleled efficiency, robust features, and scalability to ensure you have tools to boost productivity and elevate performance like never before. Horizon streamlines your operation with secure 24/7 access, automatic updates, and all the power that only the cloud can offer. Plus, Horizon offers a direct connection to the industry's most extensive network of service providers and partners. Experience Horizon for yourself when you visit ramquest.com. And now, please enjoy the show. Deb Wiley, welcome to Keys to Real Estate. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Mary. I'm so happy to be here. Thrilled for our conversation.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for coming because we have a situation developing in the world of real estate. As I'm sure you know, we've got a half a point rate cut last week, and some folks are going to need to be making some hires. And a lot of people have been running on low staff for a few years now. And one thing I know about this business that you taught me is it's always changing. So I wanted to help people get kind of fresh with what's going on in the world of people and hiring and employee retention. And so we needed to call in an expert. We're glad you're here. One of the things that I know that you are really passionate about is you are in the people business. And that is a little bit different than some of the traditional HR. But I think a lot of people are slightly aware of that, but maybe not conversant in the difference between the two. So what would you say is a basic answer to that question? How are traditional HR and the people business different?
Yeah, sure. I love that question, and I get that a lot. And for me, the big difference is a lot of times, historically, HR has been really associated with compliance, policy administration, benefits, hire and fire. Now, I do think both fields people and HR are concerned about the employee experience, but I do see with people operations or in people and culture, there's really an emphasis on strategy. It's about making sure that you're developing an employee experience that people will come and want to work for you. It's investing in that total experience and in total employee life cycle. And so it's about culture transformation, leadership development, and really being able to align the business and the people strategy together. So that's how I sort of see the two as a little bit different. It's that focus and approach.
So they're complementary, I'm guessing, but yeah, that newer emphasis on, I love how you put that, the employee experience, which I think traditionally has been maybe a little underserved aspect of our human assets.
Yes. I think the way that I see it, Mary, is it's really not dissimilar to, you think about our marketing professionals and just how dogmatic they are about that customer experience, how they're the curiosity, understanding the pain points, cultivating a compelling message. That's really what people ops is to the employee experience. It's surveying your people to understand where are we hitting the mark in our organization, where do we need opportunity. It's about over communicating. So it's really taking that marketing stance and using it and treating your employees that way.
That clarified it perfectly. I get that. I had an aha moment.
Hey, we're off to a good start.
We're off to a good start. Well, now I'm going to throw some curveballs your direction.
Okay,
because
I'm ready.
in our industry, which you have been in the people business for before, although you're not today, but you have been alongside it enough to know that there are some unique challenges. So in our industry, sometimes we have to attract and retain talent, but sometimes we'll go years apart before we're able to hire. And then we kind of have to maybe staff down and then staff up. But we follow the market, and that's part of the business. We understand that. But we a lot of times have the added complication that we work in an industry that is highly specialized, and experienced workers can be difficult to find. So a lot of times employers go out and just find people that they feel like have the right aptitude, and then they teach them the required job skills, which that's great when that happens, but it can make having trained up and experienced employees, like when they leave the agency or the company, it can feel like a harder hit. So I'd like to walk through each step of that if we could. And I'd like to start with the search, the attracting of talent, the hiring, sort of those kinds of topics, if we could begin there. What are some effective ways to search for talent today? Where do you put a job post? Where are people with aptitude looking for jobs? What should companies think about and do in that regard?
So I think a lot of that comes down to casting a very wide net, so that you're going to hit a lot of different people. And so you want to start with some of the major kind of job boards. I think LinkedIn is still a great way to find knowledge workers and professionals in various industries. You can also look at your trade association, getting partnerships with them, and really setting yourself as a leader in that industry and in that space, so that you're cultivating those types of relationships. You can also look at some of the local job boards, like partnering up with your chamber of commerce, being active in the community so that your business is being known and you're being known as an employer of choice. Another thing is just using employee referrals, tapping into your current workspace and making sure that your team understands what openings are available, and so that they can help you with that search and getting the word out. And lastly, it's really about networking. I like to think of recruiting as you're just kind of always, what is it in sales, ABC, always be closing. I always say always be recruiting, and if you have a recruiting team or even yourself, get out there, network, understand who's in the market, so that you're building that relationship and pipeline before you need the position, so it doesn't take so long. So those are some things that employers can do to find great talent.
I think that's wonderful. So what are some non-traditional methods that you've seen used to find and even potentially even screen prospective employees?
I don't know if I would classify it as non-traditional, but I don't think a lot of companies do it as well and see it as recruiting. It's really getting your employer brand out there. So understanding, what is your employee value proposition? why would an A player want to join your team? So really getting that compelling message out there, using social media to get that message out there about your organization, and making sure that you can reach that talent. Partnering up with colleges and universities, their alumni network is helpful. There's a company, Handshake, that connects with multiple universities so that you can connect with their alumni network. And then also really showing off your environment, your culture, putting on a meetup and inviting candidates in just to see kind of what it's like to work for your organization and getting your name out there. So those are just some out of the box a little bit, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, we have to go to a job fair or career fair. You can host these open house events at your organization.
Oh, I love that idea. I've never thought of that. And it really does also, I think, show a commitment to prioritizing your recruitment and your culture. And because that's, I think, something that a lot of companies struggle with too. So that's kind of a 2-for-1.
Yeah, for sure. And I also want to mention, Mary, that when you think about the job search, start internally first. Like, look at your internal workforce as a marketplace. And if you're looking to add a new position, maybe invest in upskilling or reskilling your current workforce and offering them those opportunities to either move laterally or move up in the organization. It's always just a great place to start, because you're not sure who's going to raise their hand and be up for learning that new position when the need arises.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Support for today's episode of Keys to Real Estate is provided by Rhino. Much like Monopoly, every move counts, and handling escrow accounts without the right tools is like getting to Boardwalk without a strategy. The stakes are high and the risks are real. So bank on absolute financial protection with the Rhino software bundle. Rhino integrates with escrow accounting software and online banking systems to provide the industry's gold standard in escrow and financial security software solutions. Rhino offers continuous end-to-end accounting auditing, daily reconciliation, transaction monitoring, anti-fraud algorithms, and built-in automated reporting. Schedule a test drive today. You as a recruiter and attractor of talent, I know you've done a zillion interviews with prospective hires. What would you say are some of the more important parts of the interview process for an employer or hiring manager or an initial scout like you are?
Thank you. And, recruiting will always be one of my greatest passions. I will always be a recruiter at heart. And I really think it starts with the beginning, defining the right job profile for the position. Often we enter that process with not knowing what success looks like and not understanding what are those outcomes that we want this position to deliver on. In 6 months, how will I know I made the right offer? I made the right decision. What has changed in my workplace? So it starts right there with really defining what success looks like in the role, and then really creating a compelling message that will reach a really high performer, an emerging leader that would want to join your organization. And then just making sure that you're investing in that candidate experience. Again, I'll make a lot of kind of references to the customer experience, but it's really not dissimilar. How do you want that candidate to feel about going through your interview process? How can you make it more manageable, easier entry to connect with your recruiting team or to connect with you? So I think it starts with having the right job profile, investing in that candidate experience, and then having the right assessments to help you understand that person's skill set. That could be making sure that you're asking behavioral questions. If you can, invest in having an assessment that kind of can predict some of their behavior to make sure that they're qualified and have the competencies for the job. And then just, again, bringing it back to making that candidate experience, making them feel special, giving them that white glove experience.
I agree. And I will add another one, and it'll sound like a statement, but I'm really asking a question, because there's been a lot of employee movement around in this sector lately. There's a lot of M&A and employees kind of have been moving around. And one of the things I hear from people on the move is they'll say, man, I had this great experience. Like, I interviewed with this company. I think I'm interested in them. The job sounds good. I think they're interested in me, and I'm still waiting to hear. And they go days and they haven't heard anything. And I know a lot of times the employers are just trying to now get their ducks lined up because they didn't have them exactly lined up before they engaged prospective employees. But the candidate is sitting out there going, well, I guess that didn't go well. And emotionally, they're moving on while the employer is actually just trying to get an offer together and have their stuff together. In that gap where there's no communication, I would imagine a lot of opportunities kind of turn into a puff of smoke. But I don't know if I'm oversampling on that or if that's a common experience.
Yeah, there's this thing that happens with candidates and recruiters, sometimes called ghosting. You probably have heard of that. And that's how they feel. They feel like, man, I applied for the position. I haven't heard back. And then you have the hiring manager who's swamped, has a lot going on, and can't dedicate to making sure that they're getting that timely feedback.
Yeah.
If you can, I would recommend getting an ATS system, applicant tracking system. That's going to help you manage those candidates, manage communication, and really have all of your candidates in one place so that you can know at each stage they are in the hiring process, and it can help you get to them quicker. So that's one thing to do, leverage technology to help you with that communication. The other, you do have to hold yourself accountable. I mean, it gets really competitive, and some candidates are interviewing for multiple companies with multiple positions. And so if you are interested in them, if you do think, man, this is a great catch, figure out how you can prioritize that and make sure that you're managing your time properly so that you're getting to them. And even if it's a candidate that maybe you interviewed, not a fit, that's where that applicant tracking system can help you as well, because that way you can kind of automate some of the communication processes so that they at least get some feedback as to, hey, it was great, interviewing with you, but we've decided to move on to another candidate. Candidates, even if they're getting declined, they just want that communication on where they stand in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, you mentioned software tools, and I want to, I know especially some of our larger employers in the sector use these, and they can be great. They can help automate a lot of steps. However, I'm looking for a little bit of counter programming to those, because here's what I've heard. And this is more on the potential employee side. A lot of them will encounter one of those apply here tools, an automated tool, and they'll just step back from it because they don't know what the right keywords are. They don't know what the focus has been. They can be a little bit cumbersome to go in and basically fill all that out. And then if you haven't entered the right keywords, you're just out. So I think a lot of people who are could be potentially good employees will back away from that. So I would love some tips either for those prospective employees or those employers of how to warm that up a little bit, or how to make it more approachable, so that you can actually get the benefits and not maybe have people say, oh, lean back from it, and then you never hear from a great prospective applicant.
That's a really good question. I think the candidate first has to make sure, as they're looking at the job description and the job posting, hey, is this a match for me? Is this a position that I feel that I could be successful in? Do I have the right qualification and skills to apply for this role? And so if you do, those things, those keywords that you mentioned, they're going to automatically be on your resume because you're doing those things. So they're going to automatically match you and pair you with them. I do think that there sometimes can be overuse and too much on relying on kind of AI and technology. So a good recruiter and a hiring manager, they're still going to take the time to review that resume, but it should be more of a shift on looking at the skills for the job. So instead of like, oh man, I asked for, a college degree and, 8 years of experience. Do you really need that? Like, take a step back and think, but what are the competencies that I need this person to have? Do they have that? And so those things should kind of, populate into the system and make the person a match. But I still think there's a human touch into it. So you still have to review those resumes to determine, hey, am I screening out people that could be a great fit, not complete reliance on
Right.
technology.
Yeah. It's a tool. It shouldn't be
It's a tool.
the tool, it sounds like.
Yes, it's a tool to supplement your efforts. Nothing can replace the human experience of HR, people, and talent. No tool can replace that. It still will come down to building that relationship and being able to connect with people.
That makes complete sense, because you're going to be working day to day with that person and not necessarily the hiring algorithm.
Right. Yeah, it's still working with humans.
That's right. for this week at least.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on searching, hiring, or searching, recruiting, finding talent that we should be talking about before we move on to retention?
I just can't really emphasize it enough in that really making sure that you're cultivating a culture that you can be able to attract the right people and retain them into your environment. So just using those tools, casting that wide net, making sure that you have a strategy for inclusion, and making sure that you're reaching a wide candidate pool. Those are just some of the kind of best practice I think that people can implement that are easy to do to help you win the talent race.
Thank you again, Deb. I really love the specific ideas and examples you gave to help people navigate some areas that aren't first nature for many of us. And I hope we're going to be bringing on board a lot of new talent in the coming weeks and months. So I think your words will help people do that just a bit more confidently. Now, audience, you will hear more from Deb next week in part 2 of our discussion. Next time, we'll cover the important subjects of employee retention and what to do when a great producer decides to call it quits, how to combat burnout in the ranks, and how to create a dynamic company culture that facilitates the right environment where all of your other strategic initiatives will be realized, or where they'll fail if the culture quotient isn't quite in alignment. Now, Deb's email address is linked in today's show notes should you need some follow-up advice or discussion. And we'll meet you back here next week for part 2 of her terrific advice. So until next time, keep striving to reimagine how to tool people and your operation for success, and we'll keep bringing you the conversations you need to help you do it. So for October Research, where knowledge is definitely the competitive advantage, I'm Mary Schuster. Thanks for being with us today.